Hello everyone. This is my first ever YouTube video, and I'm a psychologist. My name is Vatika Goyal, and I am going to today share my PDCP entrance exam experience of 2025 and how it was a very life-changing experience. So, for those who don't know, PDCP is basically Professional Diploma in Clinical Psychology. This is 1 year course that is RCI certified. And once you are done with your course, you are labeled as, or you get a license called Associate Clinical Psychologist, and you can practice in a hospital setting as well as have your own practice. So basically, as per RCI protocols, there are 4 rounds of this examination, which is, I feel, the most authentic examination that is done when it comes to certified level, right? So here is my very brutal, authentic, and 100% honest experience of this examination. So there were 4 rounds, basically divided into 3 days. First round was an MCQ and a long answer question, which was 50 marks MCQ and 10 marks for the long answer question, completely theoretical exam that was held on 2nd June. And once we were done with the exam, half an hour later, we had another round, which was a practical question examination, which was for 10 marks again, and that had questions like what would you do if you get certain type of client, what would you do if your supervisor said this or that. So this was purely practical based, and I really had a very good time because I am a practicing psychologist in a hospital setting, and I have experience of over an year, and this was the part of the examination that I was really proud of and really nailed it, and actually left a note over the examination, not to impress anybody, but just to say that, really appreciate testing practical knowledge, because when it comes to exams like these, MPhil and, other exams, they don't actually see our practical knowledge. Everybody leans on for the theoretical knowledge. Then the third round was on the next day, which was called group discussion. Now, what happens in this? All participants are divided into like 5 or 6 groups, right? And once they're divided into groups, you're supposed to go to a room where there is a panel of all the faculty and the HOD present, and you're supposed to pick up a chit of topic. And once you know the topic, you're supposed to speak 1 minute each as per the participants. What do you feel about the topic? What is your stance on that topic? And once you're done speaking, 1 minute each, then there is a small discussion time given. You're supposed to discuss what all pointers that were discussed and decide on one person out of that group who is going to be concluding all the points. So that can be anybody. And then you get another 1 minute to conclude that whole thing. That was the third round. Pretty easy, pretty much very subjective. Now, last was the fourth round, which was on the 4th June, which is Viva or personal interview. Now, here where things were a little down south, because as you know, Vivas are something that people are usually very anxious about and usually very scared of. So, when I as well went to the room, again, the panel was there, the whole faculty and HOD was present. Now, as a person who is extremely positive for every opportunity that I do get, I've entered with a very happy and cheerful energy. However, that energy was not reciprocated. And I get that, in a personal interview or a Viva setting, you're supposed to make the other person feel intimidated. That's the point, to see their capabilities, their confidence, right? So, there are particular things that we are focusing on, body language and everything. So I completely get that. But the things that happened right after, like for example, being interrupted while you're speaking, being interrupted when you're giving answers, when you're giving right answers even, and emphasizing on the wrong answer or emphasizing on points that you do miss. And it was a more interview based setting where you were made to feel that how less of you know rather than how much you do know and what do you know. So it was kind of a setting, and this is not just my experience, honestly. The candidate or the participant who went before me, who was also a practicing psychologist, came back crying because she was completely overwhelmed from one of her answer that she did say wrong. And I feel that is completely unfair of the faculty or the examiners, because as practicing psychologists we do have experience, we do know things, right? It's not completely theoretical based. I completely get that theoretical knowledge is very important, but we are seeking that structured academic knowledge for this degree, for this particular degree, right? But we do have practical knowledge as well. And as someone who has been practicing for more than a year, I feel that in a clinical setting or in a therapy session, it's never about, never have any of my client ever told me that, can you please explain this phenomena with a psychological theoretical model, or who was it given by? So my point is that it is important for us to understand the basics, yes, but it is not the only particular thing that should be evaluated on. And at least as an examiner, I would like to request to people that you should, because we as psychologists are trained that the particular qualities that every person should have is of unconditional positive regard, empathy, and congruence. And if we forget that when we are in a setting where a person is completely at their vulnerable point, then I feel it is quite disheartening at this stage. Now, coming to how it was a life-changing experience for me, honestly, I have been working in this setting, but when I went there for this examination, I explored and I got in a room filled with psychologists, budding psychologists, and people who have just cleared their masters, and I built so many new connections. And the level of potential that every person brings on the table is extremely astonishing. Like, it is very surprising of me that how can a person be put in those categories that they are perfect for this position is very difficult. So, for example, all these examinations that are happening all over the country, MPhil and PDCP, they only have positions of like 5 or 10 positions, right? This is also something that we as people who are appearing for these exams know already. So we are under that pressure already, that we are competing against the whole population. Yet, if we get an unwelcoming behavior or unwelcoming environment around us, that is completely anxiety provoking for the candidate and their potentials. So, even the funny part was that when I was done with my personal interview, I thanked them for the opportunity and was showed my gratefulness for the opportunity. However, when I left the building and the room, I did not turn back because I felt that I am not going to be disrespected on the basis of what I'm coming here to learn and I don't know yet. So you cannot judge me on the basis of my theoretical knowledge, but also my skills that I have developed. And I am someone who is very open to learn every single new thing that I get to. So the funny part was when I came out of the examination center and my mom was there and she asked me how did it go, and I told her that it was well, like people, the faculty made some faces when maybe have responded a little differently or maybe wrong answers. So her response was, they made faces, that's okay. I hope you did not react. That's because she knows that I do not respond well to disrespect. And that's true. That's something that I have built in the last 2 years for myself, that I am someone who is very extremely humble and ready to learn, yet I am not someone who is going to be disrespected on what she does well and she's known for. So, if at least over the year I have seen more than 100 cases, I am telling you that there are 10 cases, at least 10 cases out of those 100 cases that have been coming to therapy recurrently for more than a year. So I have developed those skills somewhere or the other. And I feel people who were disheartened by this interview or the examination, who left the examination hall with a very sad face, I want to tell each one of them that you had astonishing potential. Every time I talked to a practicing psychologist or a budding psychologist, I got to learn so much more. I got to learn about their experience. I got to know about their personality. I got to know about their techniques, which technique made them feel more comfortable. So nobody should be compared on how much theoretical knowledge a person should have, but I get that it is a necessity protocol to be judged on when it comes to these exams as well. Also, one of the biggest realizations that I had during that period, during that last day of my interview, when I was waiting in the room alone and reflecting on my last 3 days, how has it been and everything. The most beautiful thing that I realized was when everybody was connecting and everybody was reaching out and talking, and they wanted to know how did I landed up this job and how did I feel working here. And my reaction instantly was that my job is the one thing that makes me the most happiest. That one day when I was waiting in that room for my interview and looking at the rain outside, because Dehradun is extremely beautiful, and I was just reflecting on the fact that that young girl in the 11th standard who fell in love with psychology, who always dreamed of, did not know that she had to give MPhil or PDCP or get a license to become a clinical psychologist. She just knew that she was going to do psychology, that's her passion. And she wanted to work in a setting where she's helping people, guiding them, and making them feel better. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing currently. And it's very easy when you're striving for more and more that you forget that what you dreamed of, what you wanted to do, you're actually doing it, you're living it. And that's what I'm doing. So that day, the realization, the gratefulness that I had in my heart, the level of pleasure that I have had in my heart, I wanted to share it with you all. And I wanted to share and make you reflect as well that what maybe you plan, you are actually doing it. What maybe you would must have thought that I want to do this. It might not be at that certain level, but you're on that way, you're doing it, you're living it, and it's very easy for us to forget that and reflect on what we couldn't do rather than what we are doing and what we have become. So this was my experience, very raw, very authentic, and I hope it brings something change, or maybe it helps you reflect on your life a little better. All the best, you're doing amazing.